I'm Rick Harp. This is your APTN News Brief for Monday, July 7th. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew has broken his silence over the controversy surrounding his Minister of Accessibility, Nahanni Fontaine. For over a week, Fontaine has been criticized for comments she made about an American Sign Language interpreter while at an event celebrating Indigenous women graduates. Speaking with an aide after her speech to grads, Fontaine said she was thrown off by the on-stage interpreter and said she shouldn't have been on stage. And Fontaine has issued 2 apologies on social media since APTN first reported her comments. However, there have been calls for her resignation, including another by the opposition Conservatives Friday. And it was on Friday that the Winnipeg Free Press reported Premier Kinew's defense of Fontaine. Quote, "Our minister has apologized and is putting in the work with the community, so it's with the greatest of humility that I want to ask folks in the deaf community to keep working with her," unquote. Since the incident, APTN News has repeatedly asked the province for a comment or an interview with Minister Fontaine, but has received no response. Turning to a multi-day protest staged last week on the TransCanada Highway in northern Ontario, organized by Netmizagamig Nishnabeg First Nation, some 350 kilometers northwest of Sault Ste. Marie, they decried what they call the undemocratic process behind 2 economic development bills. Members demonstrated peacefully on the highway from Monday through Thursday, slowing traffic down to about 50 kilometers an hour. And according to Chief Louis Kwissawa, Ontario's Bill 5 and Canada's Bill C5 both violate inherent First Nations rights.
There has been an undemocratic process. It's been rushed and no consultation with First Nations. So that right there, that violates Section 35 right off the hop, which is our Aboriginal rights in the Canadian Constitution.
Turning to Saskatchewan, where thousands of wildfire evacuees have begun to return home. But one MLA wants the province to do more for affected northern residents. And Jordan McPhail represents the northern riding of Cumberland for the NDP. He says many evacuees have come home to fridges and freezers full of spoiled food worth hundreds of dollars due to fire-related power outages. That's why McPhail believes Sask Power, as a Crown corporation, has a responsibility to help such families. Sask Power, meanwhile, says they've paused collections, stopped disconnections, and have offered interest-free payment plans for affected customers. But McPhail says that's not enough.
Going into wildfire and evacuation processes and whatnot in northern Saskatchewan, a provincial government has a role to play in that with the SPSA. And I think that if you ask the northern people how that's gone so far this year, there's a lot of work that the government needs to do to make this right.
Still with fires, British Columbia has become a major hotspot. Some 375 wildfires now burn across the province, the majority out of control. Last month, the Dryden Creek wildfire that threatened the small town of Squamish is now classified as under control. However, a days-old wildfire in the Hope area has been declared out of control due to the steep terrain. And the town of Lytton, devastated by wildfire in 2021, now watches across the river as a new fire burns there as of last week. Meanwhile, in Chase, the Nisconlith First Nation evacuated its members due to another fire there, but the order has now been classified as an evacuation alert. Still in BC, where a First Nation has regained a big chunk of its traditional territory, and as APTN's Tina House reports, the return will allow the nation to preserve the area's old-growth forests and heritage sites.
The day started out with a ride in the Sea to Sky gondola to the summit, where traditional songs and drumming greeted guests at this special event. Squamish Nation leaders, elders, and community members celebrated the signing of the documents that signifies a new relationship between the nation and the province of British Columbia, as they can now protect over 20,000 hectares of land within their traditional territory.
It's the equivalent to 50 Stanley Parks.
And with their traditional territory that extends from North Vancouver to further up in the valley to Howe Sound to small islands, Wilson Williams says this is a major win for them and their future generations.
Included in that area are more than 30 new Siyaman Tascomish cultural sites and 6 new special cultural management areas. These areas will be managed to protect old-growth cedar, culturally modified trees, and critical habitats. The agreement also includes provisions for future work on the shoreline and marine areas within our territory.
This agreement is years in the making.
BC's Minister of Forests, Ravi Parmar, says he is honored to be part of this historic agreement.
Builds upon previous agreements in 2017 and 2007 that will guide forest stewardship in this beautiful territory. And it sets the stage for further discussions around land use planning and provides certainty around when and where forestry activities can occur while protecting important Indigenous cultural values.
We have very few places that we can call our own within our territory to practice our spiritual beliefs and our cultural practices.
Kelseelam is the chair of the Squamish Nation.
And we have to stand together as Squamish people to protect those areas so that our people, not just today, but future generations will be able to experience the gifts that our ancestors had for us, to be able to bathe in those creeks, to have a relationship with those mountains, to be in those forests, to harvest our medicines and our tools and the things that have sustained us.
Tina House, APTN National News, Squamish.
And that's your APTN News Brief for Monday, July 7th. I'm Rick Harp.